Hey, everybody. It's good to see you today. It's Tuesday, April 21st. We're kind of into another week, another new week. Glad to see all you out. I pray that you're well and everything's being taken care of and that life is good for you as best as it can be. I do want to remind you about a couple of things tonight, 7 o'clock. We're going to have our meditation time online. That'll be with me. I'm Pastor Timothy Muse, lead pastor here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, and I'll be doing a guided meditation time, 7 o'clock tonight. So we invite you to come out for that. It's a great opportunity to just kind of settle in, find some balance and peace, and hopefully create some skills or some abilities to let go and be able to center yourself. Meditation is a wonderful practice. It's a very ancient practice, something that goes back to talked about even in the Old Testament. Excuse me. So, it's not something outside of the Christian realm. It's not something outside of, it's not something that, is new or is just created. Meditation is something that has been going on for a very long time. And so it's just an opportunity to come out and be part of a time of breathing and relaxation. There's no age requirement. There's no experience levels. You've never meditated before. This would be a good opportunity to try for the first time, perhaps, or, meditate with your kids or with your parents. Meditation is a great way to, calm ourselves and be centered in the moment. So much that we're living in right now, our past and our future are colliding. And that's really that's where I want to go. But meditation is good lead into it. We have this time now that we're in, where it's very different than our past. Obviously, a lot's changed, and so we lament the past. We lament what we can't do. We lament what we're not doing, and there's nothing wrong with lamenting. There's nothing wrong with grieving. It's the way it's supposed to be. When things change, we grieve the old as we live into the new. Meditation allows us to stay in the moment and understand that grief and that lament, but not marinate in it, not dwell in it. Here in the moment the point of the moment is not to strive to get back to the past. The moment is to strive to live in the moment. As well, as we look into a very uncertain future, that causes anxiety, fear, lack of control. Meditation helps us to be in the moment, to not allow that which our brain creates of possibilities to overwhelm us or to consume us. So meditation is a great way to stay in the moment, to stay in place and keep in perspective our past and our future. So that's tonight at 7 o'clock. We invite you out for that. Tomorrow we'll have our prayer service, prayer and word at noon. So we invite you to tune in for that as we continue to try to stay connected in the midst of this time of social distancing and separation. And, so I wanted to touch base a little bit. Obviously, we saw yesterday coming out of Governor DeWine's press conference. And then for those of you, at least in the Alliance School District, and I'm sure that the other school districts, I haven't gotten word, but I know for the Alliance School District that education has been pushed to remote learning for the rest of the year, which means that there'll be no in-class learning for the rest of the academic year, I should say, through the end of May. And we knew, we had inklings that probably was going to happen, but now it's confirmed. And now that it's confirmed, that creates a great deal of struggle, anxiety. Again, our future is very unclear. We look at what we've lost. We look at what isn't going to happen, especially if you're a graduating senior this year, and the loss of prom and awards and recognitions, and that's painful. It's difficult. It's difficult now that that's been announced. And I'm sure that the school district is going to do everything they can to try to make something happen. But in the midst of this time, as we see more things fall, as we see more things change, what we tend to do as humans is we tend to focus on what we've lost. We tend to focus on what we've lost. We tend to key in on those things that aren't anymore. And though that is important, we can also miss that which not only we still have, but maybe we will gain out of what we've lost. I think back first to, Good Friday, the crucifixion. The disciples scatter in fear because they think they've lost their teacher. All they can see is what they've lost. All they can see is the separation, the taking away. What they can't see, even though Jesus has told them, what they can't see is that loss has to happen because something greater is coming. They can't see beyond their own loss to see not only that this needs to happen, that God is going to do something incredible, but it's not just about their loss. There was still much that they had. And we as people, not just people of faith, but we as people, when something is taken away or when something changes, we certainly can think about what we've lost. Now, whether that is what's happening with the coronavirus, or whether that is a change in life, a change in health, as we grow older, as our bodies change, I can't do what I used to be able to do, but not realizing that now I can do what I couldn't do before. So we as humans always key in on the loss. We key in on what we've lost and not either what we have or what we may gain. And so when we key in on what we lost, we can go to God with a sense of disappointment or pain or hurt. Again, and there's nothing negative about that. That's not a critique. We do go to God with that. But we don't just go to God with that. We can go to God with this sense of less than or taken away. But there's more to it than that. Until we've lost everything, we haven't lost everything. And there are still things that we hold on to, still things that we have. Yes, in this time, we don't have restaurants available to us. We don't have school available to us. And that is a deficit. That is a loss in our life. But we still have our life and our family and resources. We still have things, homes, and we have this wonderful technology that is so relatively new in the midst of human history. So what we think is just loss, there is loss, but it's not just loss. And this is where I want to go. This is what I want us to see, is that even in the midst of loss, we haven't lost everything. And if you have lost everything, and you hear the sound of my voice, if you have lost everything and you hear the sound of my voice, then please know that I'm not taking away your loss. I'm not belittling it or lessening it. And I'm very sad and sorry for that. But for most of us, though we have lost, we have not lost everything. There is plenty that we still retain and some that we gain. And so there is still good and positive to focus on. I think of Paul writing to the Philippians, and he says in chapter 4 of his letter to the Philippians, rejoice in the Lord always. I say again, rejoice. Now, when Paul says this, Paul isn't painting some Pollyannic picture of cherries and rainbows and puppy dogs and everything's great and wonderful. Christians in Rome, it wasn't wonderful. There was fear and there was martyrdom and there was violence, and the Christians were being persecuted. But even in the midst of that, they could still rejoice in the Lord. They could still rejoice in a God that has come close. They could still rejoice in a God who has been revealed in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. They could still rejoice. And that rejoicing, even if it's in a little, has a powerful and profound effect because there is still something positive and joyous to hold on to, even in the midst of pain and struggle and loss and fear. Even in the midst of brokenness, there is still something to rejoice in. I hold on to those words. Rejoice in the Lord always. I say again, rejoice. Yes, I would love to be with all of you in person. But I rejoice in the fact that God has given us the technology and the means and the capability of being able to do this. Yes, I would love to be able to share the Eucharist with you and look into your eyes again as I put the bread on your hand. But I rejoice that we have the opportunity to eat the Eucharist. even if it's not like we have done in the past. Yes, I would like many things to be different, but I rejoice that we still can move forward and be the people of God. I rejoice in what God has offered for us. Yes, there is loss in our life. And yes, there is grief in our life. And yes, there are things that are different, and they're going to be different. But there are still things to rejoice in. There are still things to hold on to. And if nothing else, we rejoice in the promise of eternity with Christ. We rejoice in our seat at God's heavenly table. We rejoice that our baptism will be complete. And as Jesus promised, he has prepared a place for us, and he will take us there. So we do have something to rejoice in. And when we rejoice, even if just for a moment, it changes how we think and what we see and what we feel. When we rejoice, it gives us the capability of looking past just the loss to see future and hope, as well as be present and take stock in what we still have and who we can still be. My friends, as I said in the beginning, we see that things are going to be changed now for a while. We see that school will not resume again, at least until the academic year begins in the fall. And that is a great struggle, and that is a great loss. If we only focus on that, then, well, it'll crush us. There is much to rejoice in, even in the midst of this. There are stories of rejoicing. There are times of love and peace and grace, and people are showing humanity and God's image in ways that we had never seen before. And that's worth rejoicing. That's worth giving thanks for. And the fact that you were able to get out of bed this morning and put your feet on the floor, that's worth rejoicing. That's worth rejoicing in the Lord for. So rejoice in the Lord always. Always rejoice. Yes, we experience loss. Yes, we experience struggle. Yes, we experience pain and hurt and grief. But even in the midst of that, we can rejoice because we have a God who's not afraid of our pain and hurt and struggle and grief. We have a God who stands with us in our pain and hurt and struggle and grief. And we can rejoice in that. For the maker of heaven and earth loves us enough to be present where we are, what we're facing, no matter what. No matter what. That's worth rejoicing in. My brothers and sisters, I pray for you this day and every day. I pray that you have the opportunity to experience a place of rejoicing. Look outside. The flowering trees are beautiful. Take a moment to breathe in the fresh air. Rejoice. There are still things worth rejoicing in this world. There are still things that haven't been changed, that we haven't lost. And there are things that can come from this, that are coming from it, even if just for a little bit. Rejoice, brothers and sisters, in the Lord always. I say again, rejoice. Rejoice. Peace be with you this day. Peace be with you in whatever you're doing. Peace be with you as you move forward into your afternoon. May God continue to watch over you and bless you. May God continue to reveal to you moments of grace and peace and rejoicing.